All right, I just spent Thanksgiving weekend, or still a weekend, but the past 3 days doing farm work on my mushroom farm and my friend's regenerative agriculture farm. And my friend, he was the one who told me about Alison McDowell before she talked about my own research. And so he was saying this time that he named these other podcasts, or I don't know. I don't know who they were. Somebody Dave, somebody I have no idea, but he just said that they don't like Alison McDowell anymore because she's too into quote deep ecology unquote, and that she's totally against blockchain. And I thought this was a fascinating response, because I said, well, I've been, you know, promoting deep ecology, I guess, and that view to Allison, and also he said how Allison is into like Native American stuff and indigenous stuff, and so I mean, this is the great irony, is that we live in this, what David F. Noble, like Allison, I talked to her about her blog is called a wrench in the gears, and that's a head nod to David F. Noble, like the documentary about the former MIT historian. And I had talked to Allison about David F. Noble because my master's thesis was based on this argument about radical ecology, because there was a lawsuit against this state conservation group that I was a member of. I mean, I paid the membership fee, I think. All right, I ordered some of their material anyway, but they were Superior Wilderness Action Network, and they filed lawsuits to stop logging. And so the like free market, right-wing corporate fascist types went after. They filed what's called a strategic lawsuit against public participation, a SLAP suit, like an injunction against a SWAN. And the argument was that, well, they're a religious group. This is a religious argument to protect nature, and therefore it's not a valid scientific argument. And so David F. Noble's argument is that modern science grew out of Freemasonry and Platonic philosophy that actually is a religion of technology. And that was the title of his book, The Religion of Technology. And then his final book was the Beyond the Promised Land. And he takes that religion of technology and he pushes it back to the Garden of Eden myth, and how the myth had been changed, from Sumeria to the Judaic, Christian, Islam, or basically like the patriarchal version of it. Because at first Eve was not evil. She was part of she was in harmony with the tree of life, and this gets into the esoteric tantra yoga stuff. And so the whole point is just like you cannot escape deep ecology. It's not something you believe in, because deep ecology, if you study Arnie Nice, I have a paper I wrote on him along when I was at my undergraduate degree. I can't remember what class I wrote it for. Anyway, I found that paper. I'm gonna have to reread it. I found that's like one of the papers I saved, because I throw out most of my papers. But actually, the Wisconsin Historical Society, my buddy, my activist mentor in Madison, he told me he filed one of my first books was a compilation of my undergraduate papers, and he filed it at the Wisconsin Historical Society in Madison. So I should look up at their database, and then I'd be able to read my undergraduate papers. But it's not that, like then none of them would be like essential reading or whatever for my current book research that I'm doing, that I'm working on right now. But basically, this is just a message for Allison to stick with it. This is my encouragement. I was like, the whole thing about the internet is that the truth on the internet has become the internet obviously got corporatized, just like cable. Like cable TV at first, it started out these local access community stations, and then it quickly became corporatized. For example, the show Mystery Science Theater 3000, that was created here right in the neighborhood I grew up in. It was devised by Josh and Joel, and they were working in the comedy scene in Uptown Minneapolis, and they went to the Uptown Library, and Josh was literally like the same age as me, maybe a year younger or a year older, maybe, I don't know, but at any rate, he didn't stick around because they treated him like an intern, even though he had helped create the opening song and the whole concept of the show with Joel. And then, even though he was only like 17 years old or 18, and when they signed the corporate contract with the Comedy Channel or something like that, one of the early versions of the cable comedy, they had to write six jokes a minute, and that was in the contract apparently. And then I think Josh was there for the first year of that, I think. Yeah. And then he refused to go along with. They were paying him a paltry sum or something, but that's a good example of how cable went corporate and became canned, and the internet. The thing with the internet, it's the same like with cable. You have the monthly paid subscription, and that's what everybody's doing now. It's like if you have a YouTube channel, you want people to do a monthly paid subscription, and so then when people pay, then now they're customers of the, like, what people don't realize is when you watch the news in the US, it's the customer is the advertiser. And this is the same in newspapers. You're reading the newspaper, the customer of the newspaper is not the reader, it's the advertiser. And the newspaper is selling the product, which is the reader, and they're selling the reader to the advertiser, and they're saying, look, we have this type of reader, our reader. And you'll even hear this on the YouTube channels. You'll hear people say, well, we've looked at our demographics, and our viewers are like this, and this is what our viewers want to hear. And there's a certain age range, there's a certain economic range or whatever. No, it's like, so once again, you have people, all of a sudden they've created they've commodified their own search for the truth, and they've turned it into their own business. And in non-dualism, like in deep ecology, to bring it back to what I started with, the deep ecology is a type of non-dualism. And so, as Ramana Maharshi teaches, well, why limit yourself? Like in our culture, we tend to get dependent or addicted to physical things. And we're dependent on the planet, on the life, the plants. Most of life on Earth is from plants, and then you have bacteria, and a lot of life is basically female. It self reproduces without needing any male. It's only in like vertebrates where you have the males they just provide some DNA variety. So nature's really, really female. And so the deep ecology message is actually like an ecofeminism message, and this is what Taoism teaches. It calls the source of reality the mysterious valley of nature, as this, or the womb of nature. And this is part of the indigenous teaching also, and it's part of the Pythagorean philosophy as well, is that it's only through the female as matter that you get to the female as being unlimited, or the formless awareness. And it's this, in the West, we insist that the formless awareness has to be gender neutral or androgynous or whatever, or just no gender at all, because like in radical feminism, they point out that this is actually a patriarchal view. This claim to try to claim that there is no inherent female biology to the harmony of reality, whereas if you study biology, you learn that the female mammal has over twice as many oxytocin neural receptors. And the oxytocin neural receptors are what bonds the female with its babies. And that's what creates that loving, maternal, caring and it's, I mean, obviously it's super hard work. I had a female not want to care for her babies um, when I was taking care of the at the farm, because the female was in this little dark box all the time. That's how it was nursing its puppies. And so when I came there to take over, it was nice. It was nice and sunny out and warm out, and so the female just started growling at me and refused to go back into her box, or she would be locked in. And so I wasn't going to try to force her, because she's a big dog, and I could empathize with her. I mean, it's hard work. I can't. I mean, I can try to empathize with her, but at any rate, the whole point is like, well, that can't be changed with surgery. That's like an inherent, the neuroreceptors, the oxytocin neuroreceptors. That's what makes that loving bond. And it's through the vagus nerve. And so the males, that the strength of that love has to be developed through. That's what alchemy is that a male is technically, a male is female internally in Taoism, because they lose their strength, through their reproductive process. So that's their yin internally, and so they have to, through the practice of yoga, they have to reverse that and become like a female. They have to become male internally, or yang internally. And so this is the inherent strength of Mother Nature and deep ecology, and how she is taking revenge against civilization. And so if we study science, if we study ecology on a deep level, like conservation biologist Professor Guy McPherson does, he's done an overview of all the aspects of the ecological crisis. So he includes the aerosol masking effect, and he cites Andrew Glikson stating the Earth has already warmed over 2 degrees, but that figure is including the aerosol masking effect. So when we try to switch to renewable energy, we're just heating up the Earth even more. And James Hansen, the NASA physicist, has come out with the paper recently stating that, due to the cleaning up of the cruise ship diesel fuel with sulfur pollution, that reduction in sulfur pollution has heated up the Earth, and that's been a huge trend in the increased temperature on Earth, is from the reduction of the aerosol masking effect. And then, since the oceans have already stored up over 240 zettajoules, as Jim Massa explains on his science YouTube channel, then that heat will continue to get released from below and melting the Arctic ice. And they're discovering, as usual, they're discovering the Arctic ice. The multi-year ice is disappearing much faster than they realized, and it's almost all gone. There's like less than 10% of it left. And once once that multi-year ice is gone, then you just have this thin ice left that can easily get disappeared through a storm. And the other thing is the what do they call it? The I can't remember. The La Nina is ending and El Nino is beginning, and that will heat up Earth again, and but also threaten to finally remove the Arctic ice for the first time in 3 million years. And so the deep ecology aspect of reality is something that the internet can't deal with at all. And Guy McPherson is claiming that he tried to hire another team of lawyers, or they were going to do pro bono work for him to sue Michael Manning or something, and these lawyers got a death threat with some sort of blood soaked I don't know, blood soaked material that told them to stop helping Guy McPherson. And I mean, it's hard to believe, but on the other hand, in the real world, that's how power politics operates. Is there's definitely this what I call chimpanzee culture, you know, warmongering and rape, and it's the male patriarchal, just like primal might is right attitude that originates out of a materialistic, territorial, you know, myth that humans can dominate the life on Earth. And I mean, it's a tempting myth because like when I was in my forest farm, the pine squirrel did not like me being there. And this always happens where, you know, there's a lot of land and it's just me and one other animal, and the other animal just wants to get rid of me, you know. And so most people would try to like trap the other animal, but I'm just like, well, it's only one other animal, you know. So you just try to share the space. But anyway, we're gonna, as Guy McPherson says, we're running out of habitat, and there's like a record number of like a record least number of cattle being slaughtered because of the drought. Since the drought's so bad, the cattle numbers are way down. And I mean, I knew that just from following the local farmers that I've been working with. You know, like the hay prices are way down because so many people slaughtered their cattle to try to cash out, to try to reduce their losses from the drought. And so now there's not enough demand for hay because there's so few cattle. That's just one example in the food chain that it's not getting reported in the news. I mean, we already have like genocidal famine in Africa right now, you know, in Somalia. And I mean, I've been friends with Somalians. I know I had Somalians tell me they had to starve for a week. They had to fast for a week while they fled to get to a refugee site for protection. And then they came to the U.S. as refugees. And what doesn't get reported is that Cargill, the world's largest private corporation, as a food corporation based in Minnesota, they dumped grain into Somalia at 15% of the local market price. So 1/6 the local farm price, and that's how you wipe out the local farmers. And the local farmers previously had controlled Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia. So that's how the U.S. takes control of other countries. And then what's even also less reported is the U.S. had the oil companies, the oil corporations had been searching for oil in Somalia, so they knew the oil was there. And so that's like, once again, that's like this, the petrodollars of the U.S. empire at work, where they work very closely together, the U.S. Oil corporations with the U.S. government, and obviously in the military, whether it's Nigeria or Somalia. And I mean, it could be British oil companies as well, that they work closely with the military and stuff like that, or French and blah blah blah. So that's my deep ecology shtick, that the truth is not a popularity contest, despite what the internet is trying to claim, but the message is the medium, as was pointed out by Marshall McLuhan or whatever. And so this goes back to the origins of human language itself. So we, here we are talking, and it's in terms of deep ecology and in Taoism, we're just another animal making noise, just like we heard any other animal. We don't understand what they're saying, that's what we are like when we talk to each other. It's basically the same thing, just kind of tragic, but it's there. It's based on this idea there's a deeper truth of information that is non-dualism, this formless awareness. It's like an ether, and you can experience it. And once you experience it, you can experience a permanent physiological transformation. And that's like our truth from when we lived in the rainforest, as primates. So we've all been like physiologically brainwashed due to left brain dominance with talking and with right hand tool use. So this is like an ancient kind of training, goes way, way back. And I'm going to leave it at that.